What's up? So, as you can see, I'm back again with another tier list. I really like doing the other two, so I'm going to do another one. I don't think I'm going to keep doing them. I'm probably going to take a break from them, but it's probably my last one for a while, and I wanted to do it on the football teams this year. This ranking is kind of going to be their performance this year, maybe some of like last year, and then going into next year. But yeah, I'm not doing as a franchise as a whole. Like, I'm not going to just rate the Patriots on a franchise as a whole because, I mean, they would be S tiers some spots, and some spots they'd be D tiers. So it'd just be too hard to rank. So I'm just kind of going to go off the top of the dome this year. I mean, my ranking's not going to be perfect. And I'm going to be biased with some things because I just don't like some teams. I just don't like the players on them. I don't like anything about them. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get into it. Arizona Cardinals. They actually have a lot of depth on their roster. Kyler Murray is kind of a sleeper quarterback. He can play good. He's really good at scrambling. He's got some playmaking ability, but he just seems to crumble in big moments, which a lot of QBs on this list do. They have a good tight end, Trey McBride. He's a really good tight end. They picked up a really, really good rookie wide receiver. He's going to be something special. And Marvin Harrison Jr. So I'm actually pretty interested to see how this offense progresses in the next few years. Because Kyler Murray doesn't have 8 more years left in his football career. But, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. just started. So he's got at least 10 to 12. I mean, however long wide receivers go, it depends on how they've been played and what they do and how good they are. But, yeah, so this year leading into next year, I'm going to put them into C tier. They're an all-right team at best. They're kind of on the bad side, though. I just named off a bunch of good things about them, but they still kind of are on the bad side, but I don't think that they warrant a D tier. The Falcons. To me, the Falcons were probably one of the biggest letdowns of this year. They drafted a QB in the draft, which in like the first round, I don't know why they did, because they just gave Kirk Cousins a huge contract. So Falcons, I thought were going to be a monster of a team because they had the wide receiver group. I mean, they had Drake London, they had Darnell Mooney. Like, they had the wide receiver group. They had the running game. So I don't know how this team ended up missing the playoffs. I really thought this team could be a Super Bowl contender. They looked strong during the offseason, but they just made some poor management decisions with drafting a QB in the first round and then spending so much money on Kirk Cousins, which Kirk Cousins really, really had an off year. He had that one good game where he threw for 500 yards, but, I mean, he, at the end of the year, I mean, his interception to touchdown ratio was like 3 to 1. I mean, it was horrible. So, yeah, just for that, I'm going to put him top of C tier. Like, the beginning of the year, I really thought this was an A tier, maybe even S tier team, just by how strong that offense looked. But the Ravens, I'm not the biggest Ravens fan, and I'm not the biggest Lamar Jackson fan, but this year, I've really become on a part of the Lamar Jackson train because he balled out this year. He put up MVP numbers. Last year, I don't think he deserved the MVP. I believe there's other quarterbacks and other players that would have been better for that award, which is really just a quarterback award, but we'll get into that later. But this year, I mean, what amazing numbers in the regular season. Now, when we get to the postseason, for some reason, he just crumbles when he's playing a good team. Yes, you can say that Mark Andrews dropped that 2-point conversion, but 3 turnovers by the Ravens is not going to win a football game, especially against the Bills. Like, the Bills are a good team, so they're not going to just win with 3 turnovers. The 2-point conversion could have maybe did something, but Josh Allen had a minute and a half, 2 minutes, I forgot how much it was, and all timeouts to go down the field and just score a field goal. 9 out of 10 times a quarterback that of Josh Allen's caliber will win that ball game. So I don't think the Ravens win that even if Mark Andrews catches it. It would have made for a great football game if they did end up winning it. That would have been a cool way to win it and go to the playoffs. But yeah. But that being said, the Ravens are A tier, because I really want to save the S tier just for a few teams. And I don't believe the Ravens are S tier. If you look at the whole year, their defense really struggled. And that's why Lamar Jackson looked so good, is because he got so many opportunities to play because their defense was getting torched. At the end of the year, they had the strongest run defense, and they were starting to figure it out. And leading into next year, I think the Ravens could go to the Super Bowl, but this year we thought they were going to go, and they didn't. But yeah, the Ravens, top of A tier for sure. The Bills will be the first S tier team. Kind of the same thing with the Ravens. Like, Josh Allen had a great year. And yes, his stats, I saw this comparison on Instagram where his stats look just like Aaron Rodgers. But you got to realize that he could be an MVP because the MVP is the most valuable player, not the best stats award. If you put any other quarterback in Josh Allen's shoes on that team, they don't have any of the success that Josh Allen had with the Bills. You can't put a Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, or even, I wouldn't even put Patrick Mahomes on the Bills and expect the Bills to go as far as they did. So, Josh Allen had a great year. Cook, out of nowhere, he just started cooking. I mean, what a great underrated running back. Going into next year, he's going to be a top 10 running back by popularity because so many people watched him just put up insane numbers for what he was given. So yeah, they're an S tier team for sure. The Panthers, I don't know. I want to say bottom of C, but I think they're D tier. The end of their year, they looked really strong, but leading up to when Bryce Young started becoming that QB1 and that steady QB, they just did not look good. I mean, it's just the Carolina Panthers. They're just one of those teams that they had that run with Cam Newton for a few years, and then yeah, that's about it. Yeah, they're a high D tier. I mean, they looked so good at the end of the year, though. I mean, Bryce Young looked like a good quarterback, and I'm ready to see how he progresses in the next year. Hopefully, he becomes that QB1 and that good quarterback to maybe even bump these up to a B tier because it was fun to watch him play at the end of the year. But yeah, season as a whole and leading up in the next year, D tier. Here's a team where a lot of people would say they're an A-tier team, and I would. This is another D-tier team, in my opinion. No, yeah, they are. They lost a lot of close games, and Caleb Williams wasn't a complete sell, but he wasn't first pick material. I don't think he was anything special. I mean, he did good for what he was given. He had a good wide receiver core, and he did good with them. He got sacked an awful lot. When I was watching him play, it seemed like he was just holding on to the ball too long, and he could not get the ball out in time. We'll talk about another quarterback here in a little bit. On the Vikings, Sam Darnold. He looked like Sam Darnold. It felt like he wanted to make that big 80-yard bomb every single play, and that caused him to just hold on to the ball and get sacked. Plus, I mean, they went from being a team at the beginning of the year that was possibly going 12-4 or 12-5. And they won 4 or 5 times. Like they looked like they were going to be a good team, and people were hyping up the Bears just for them to be the normal Chicago Bears. I will say though, one good thing is that Bears logo looks way better than that C. I like the new Bears logo. The bear itself, it looks good. Next team, the Bengals. I'm going to put them at B tier, and here's why. The Bengals offense, S tier, for sure. The Bengals defense, C or D. That's why they're going in the middle, because I don't know a quarterback that has lost like 4+ 30-point games, 35-point games, plus 35+ point games in a season. And you want to know why he lost when he scored almost 40 points a game? Was because their defense sucked. Like, awful. And they have a defensive player of the year on their team. So I don't know how their defense got sold so hard, but they just did. They were not good. but the offense was so strong. Like, Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver in the league, won the Triple Crown. Joe Burrow, like, top 5 quarterback in the league. T. Higgins, he became a monster because Jamar Chase was getting covered so much that he became open and he activated. And then I believe his name is Chase Brown. I don't know much about him. I didn't know much about him going into this season. Man, he played pretty good too. Like, this offense looked amazing. And then the defense would just sell. Like, I don't know a team. I don't remember the last time a quarterback that put up Joe Burrow stats to not be put in the playoffs because their defense sold so hard. And I'm not saying Joe Burrow every game just had a masterclass game. He, of course, made mistakes, but every quarterback does. But, I mean, like, gosh, if they have a good defense, like, I don't know. I couldn't imagine them having, like, a Chiefs defense or a Lions defense before everyone got injured, or even a Eagles defense. Like, they would be Super Bowl contenders. They would win the Super Bowl probably, no doubt, because that offense looks so strong. But that's why they're in B tier. A lot of people will put them in A or maybe even S tier, but a team is offense, defense, special teams. Their offense was good. Special teams doesn't really matter that much. I mean, they do, obviously. They have a big role, but if you have a bad special teams, a good defense, and a good offense, it's not going to really matter because you're just going to be good in other aspects. But offense, defense, special teams, their defense sold. That's why they're in B. Cleveland Browns, D tier. I mean, they played like 4 or 5 quarterbacks this year. Not really, but I think, well, did they play 4? They might have played 4 different quarterbacks throughout the year. I know for sure 3. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Browns just suck. Like, they just do. I mean, their defense is really good at times. Like, they beat the Ravens, and they beat them pretty good. They've caused a bunch of turnovers out of the Ravens. Their defense looks good at times. And man, Jameis Winston has a cannon on him. He'll just chuck it down the field. Doesn't matter who's there. The defense will catch it. The offense will catch it. It don't matter. So, I mean, they make too many mistakes to be anything higher in the D tier. The Cowboys, they're going there. I don't like the Cowboys at all. This is my bias pick. A lot of people like the Cowboys. I think they're just a fraud franchise. To have a roster that good, to have one of the best wide receivers in the league, to have a good quarterback. I think Dak Prescott is good in the regular season. But then when it comes to playoffs, he's just awful. To have a decent quarterback, which he got hurt. So I'm not talking about this year, but just in general. Like, Dak Prescott is not a Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, but he's better than Kirk Cousins. He's better than Kyler Murray. He's better than all these quarterbacks. He's better than Bo Nix. Like, all these quarterbacks, he is better than. And for them to have a roster like that and just not do good ever, like, yes, they have good records and they make the playoffs, but they don't do anything in the playoffs. So what's the point of going 14-3 if you're just going to suck in the playoffs? And this year they really sucked, which Cooper Rush had a few good games maybe. He definitely didn't have the Sam Darnold story, that's for sure. But yeah. And the fact that the Cowboys sold a game because their stadium was built horrible just shows you why they suck so bad. The stadium was built to where the sun is in the receiver's eyes when he's catching a touchdown at certain points of the day. That's when the sun rises and lowers and all that. CeeDee Lamb missed the ball completely, a wide open touchdown because he couldn't see the ball because the sun was in his eyes. Great ownership right there. Denver Broncos. This team really surprised me this year. Denver Broncos haven't been good for a while. But they really came out and balled. I'm going to put them high B tier. I don't think as a whole Denver Broncos are better than, which it's hard to say because yes, like if teams match up and won against each other, like the Ravens matched up against the Bills and the Bills lost and won and all that, but I just as a whole I'm taking the Bills over the Ravens. Even if the Ravens are a hard counter to the Bills and the Bills can't beat them, I'm still taking the Bills over them because the Bills beats many more teams on this list than the Ravens do. So it's kind of the same thing with the Broncos. Like, the Broncos defense is so strong, and Bo Nix, I'm actually going to put them ahead of the Bengals for sure. I really thought the Broncos had a good year. The Broncos, like, their offense just activated, and I think next year is going to be scary. Bo Nix looks amazing. So next year the Broncos could be A, possibly S tier. Like we could have a Peyton Manning type year out of these Broncos. The defense looks good and the offense looks better throughout the end of the year. So yeah. The Lions. I'm not going to lie, as a Chiefs fan, I love the Chiefs. They're my favorite team. But this year, you can ask anybody, the Lions are probably my favorite team. I mean, not over the Chiefs, but I loved watching the Lions play. Every time a Lions game was on, I would watch it just for the simple fact it was fun to watch. I knew I was getting in there to watch a crazy offense, crazy plays, good defense. And of course, the Lions went into the playoffs with like 22 defensive players on IR. And they had so many injuries throughout the year. If they don't have injuries, they'd probably win the Super Bowl. I was predicting that at week 4. I made a post saying that the Lions will win the Super Bowl at week 4. And this is before all the crazy injuries happened. Like Aiden Hutchinson snapping his leg in half and being able to come back for the Super Bowl if they got there. David Montgomery, my favorite player in the league. He's not the best running back, but he's a good running back. And I love watching him run. He got hurt. And Jahmyr Gibbs, what a pull that was from the draft. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the best, if not the best running backs in the league. He's amazing. And then Jared Goff stepping up and becoming that good quarterback this year, even though he's sold in the playoffs, which kind of sucks. But the Lions, I'm going to put them at S tier. If the Lions are healthy and they go into the playoffs, nobody's stopping them. If they have every single player on their roster, which that's a story for every single team, but I'm heavy with this on the Lions because they played with a third-string, second-string defense throughout the second half of the year and still did good. That means the Lions with a first-string offense defense. That's all I got to say. Green Bay Packers. High B. I'm going to put them in low A. The Green Bay Packers had a good year. Jordan Love did good for what he was given. He got hurt, and he hurt some things, and he got the concussion and kind of struggled, but they did good in most games. Now, when came playoffs, most teams crumble. The Eagles put a whooping on them. I'll just put it at that. But the Green Bay Packers were pretty fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to next year. I think the Packers go far next year. They're not on Ravens level. So right now it makes them look like they're near the Ravens, but if I could, I would put them all the way back here. They're almost top B, but I don't want to give them B. I want to give them A. That's how I feel about them. The Houston Texans. I'm going to put... I mean, this is where it gets hard because I feel like this team is better than the Bengals. Or, I mean, I feel like this team's better than the Broncos, but I don't think the Bengals they're better than the Bengals. So, I'm just going to put them right there. The Houston Texans are... there's not a word for it. They have so much potential. That defense is so amazing, and if they keep progressing, they're going to be one of the best defenses in the league. C.J. Stroud will be a franchise quarterback. He was in his sophomore slump. Next year, he's going to come out and ball like he did his freshman year. He's going to be a good quarterback. That's all I got to say about the Texans. They have a bright future ahead of them. They're not going to be some middle of the road team. I believe in the next few years they could be an A or S tier team. The Colts, I'm going to put them bottom C. They're all right. I don't really that's one of those teams I know some about, but I don't know a lot about because they just don't really have much going on. Anthony Richardson, he could be a good quarterback. If you play Madden, for some reason he's a beast in Madden. I don't know why. His stats are just insane for a quarterback of that overall. And then Joe Flacco came out and balled out for a little bit, but I don't know. I don't see them doing anything in the next few years. Maybe they surprise us next year or the year after that, but they're just a middle-of-the-road team. Middle or under average. Oh, we got Duval next. If you've seen that meme, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, that's not where I want him. I'm going to put him top of D tier. This is another team that has a pretty good roster. they have a really good roster, and they just don't know how to use it, I guess. Like, they have talent, and they don't know how to put it to use. I feel like a lot of players could go on a lot of other teams and do amazing, but since they're on the Jaguars, they just are really held back, and that's just, I don't like seeing that. But maybe next year their new head coach Duval comes out and just balls out, and they're a B, A, or S tier team. But I wouldn't, if they become a B tier team next year, I'd be surprised. But yeah, I'm actually gonna put Panthers at top of D. Kansas City Chiefs. I know I'm biased, and a lot of people call them the Kansas City Cheats, but they are top of S tier. They're on the road to a three-peat. Been to 5 out of the last 6 Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes has never not been in the AFC Championship. Like, I don't know. They are just an S tier team, and any year that they're, like, the last few years since Patrick Mahomes has joined the league, since 2018, every single year they have been a B, A, or S tier team. They've never been anything less, because people know that they are just that team to beat. They are the Patriots in early 2010s or whatever. They are the strong franchise right now. Like, they are probably the best team in football right now. Good defense, good offense when they want to play. The offense really held us back this year, though. They really, I don't know why. I get Rashee Rice got injured by Patrick Mahomes. He was our wide receiver one, and he was on pace for a monster year, like a Jamar Chase year. And Xavier Worthy, he was kind of a letdown. He really didn't show that speed off very often. I was expecting him to go on just streak routes and just like 90-yard bombs every single game because how fast he is. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say about the Chiefs. They are the team to beat right now. The Chargers. See, like, here, I believe the Chargers are a better team than the Texans, but the Texans beat them. But I believe the Chargers are a better team than the Texans. The Texans just beat them. Justin Herbert didn't have the greatest game. His wide receivers kind of sold him for not catching. But if I was to take a team for the next few years to do good, including this year, I would take the Chargers over the Texans. Just by, like, the smallest margin. Like, I'm talking 1 to, like, 1.5 out of 10 margin. Like, 0.5 more. Like, barely any, but I'm taking the Chargers just because, I don't know. Justin Herbert is a better quarterback than C.J. Stroud. Ladd McConkey is going to be a monster wide receiver. I think the Chargers are a better team, even though they lost. And I would honestly be fine with this too. Like, they're just so close together. Me saying they're a better team does not mean that the Houston Texans suck. That means, like I'm talking this much a difference. Those are two teams I think are like the closest in rating. The Rams, I'm gonna put top of B. This may be a controversial pick. Some people might want them higher. Some people might say they're lower. But the Rams looked so bad, then they looked good. And then they kind of looked bad, and then they looked good. And they beat the Vikings twice, which the Vikings had one of the best records in football. Whatever. That matters. Plus, Matthew Stafford can ball out in the playoffs. Cooper Kupp had a not very good year. He was on my fantasy team. I don't know why, of course, I get to pick Cooper Kupp in like the 4th or 5th round. He's still there, and of course, he just does horrible. I thought I got a steal, and I didn't, but he's there. Puka Nacua is a baller. He's amazing. Going to be one of the best wide receivers of all time. Yeah. The Rams are high B. If this was a few years ago, they're A, S tier. But now they've slowly fallen off. If they would have won that playoff game and kept progressing and went to the championship, I think they're A tier, but they just didn't look that good in that game. So that's why I'm dropping them down a bit. The Raiders, they're the worst team in football right now. Honestly, yes, they don't have the worst record, but why win those games at the end of the year? You could have just guaranteed yourself a first-round pick. You didn't do anything all year, and at the end of the year, you decided to ball out when you don't need to. You need to lose to get that first-round pick. Why? The Raiders are just not good. I don't see them ever being good, but maybe they will be someday. The Dolphins, I'm going to put bottom B tier. The Dolphins are another one of those teams that, like, I know about them, but I just don't care to know. Like, Tua, he's a mid quarterback. He does not warrant coming back from those concussions that many times. He needs to know when to quit, because his skill is not of these three quarterbacks to keep coming back after those injuries and risk your life. If you are a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, then yes, you do everything in your power to get back to that team, because you are the heart and soul. Tua, you can put like a Jared Goff in there and probably do well. I'm not saying Jared Goff would join that team and do better than Tua. Tua probably is better than Jared Goff, but I'm just saying you can replace him with other quarterbacks and do fine. And then Tyreek Hill, he's just getting old. Jalen Waddle had a pretty good year. Like, they got some stuff to look forward to, but they're just another mid team. The Vikings, I want to put them there. They really started selling at the end of the year. They really did not look good, but at the beginning of the year, what a shock to see this team just start stomping people. Stomp the 49ers, who was in the Super Bowl last year, and the Vikings had a losing record. For them to just come out and stomp the 49ers, holy crap. With Sam Darnold, forgot about him. Sam Darnold, what a baller until playoffs and until the Lions. Way to come out. They had J.J. McCarthy, who was going to be one of the best rookie quarterbacks or whatever in the league, or one of the best young quarterbacks. Then for him to get injured in practice, and then Sam Darnold, a quarterback that's done really nothing, to come out and play like that after playing for the Jets and all those other teams, what a baller. I liked watching the Vikings this year too. I don't know if they might be good next year, but they're going to have J.J. McCarthy. Most likely. I don't see them paying Sam Darnold like I do, but like I don't see the point in it. Sam Darnold kind of just doesn't play good under pressure. And he was kind of handed like two amazing wide receivers too to throw to. So, and he had a good running back. So, I mean, you can put a lot of people in that position and do good, but for him to come out after years that he's had and do that good, that he was an all right quarterback. The Patriots. Like, if this was 15 years ago, they're way up here, but I mean, I'll put them right here. I mean, these three bottom teams, it doesn't matter to me. They're all just got a new head coach though, and they look like he's gonna be good. But Drake May's pretty good. Drake May turned out to be a pretty good pick. He might progress to be a great quarterback in the future, but that's about all they got going for him. I mean, they got a good draft pick. The Saints. Week 1, Week 2 Saints, they would get their own category up there. They are up here. We're putting them here. They almost need their own category like the Cowboys have for the fall off. They started the season up here, and if you move your foot and look at the spot your foot was just sitting in, that's where they are now. That's how big of a change the Saints had this year. What a complete 180 of a year. I really thought the Saints were going to come out, score 40 every week, and be one of the best teams of all time this year. Just because watching them put up these numbers, like, oh my gosh. Especially Cowboys Week 2, when the Cowboys are always supposed to be a good team and playoff potential team. For them to put 40 on the Cowboys, I mean, they put 40 on the Panthers too, but the Panthers are the Panthers, so yeah. Saints. Now. The Giants. Hold on. Okay, so this is where the Giants are going to go. And you want to know why the Giants are going to go here? Because they let an MVP running back, he has the potential to win MVP the first time a quarterback has not won it in I don't know how many years. They let him go so they could save money to pay a quarterback that they let go halfway through the year to be a Vikings fourth-string quarterback. What were they thinking? Saquon Barkley is an amazing running back. He is the best in the league. And, I mean, for Saquon Barkley, he's living in paradise right now because he just went from like one of the worst teams ever to being an MVP and having one of the best running back years ever and being behind one of the best O-lines ever. Like, if I'm Saquon Barkley, I'm so happy right now. But what were they thinking? This is like, yeah, that's why they warrant their own tier, because that was just a horrible decision. And now they don't really have like a quarterback or anything. Like, I don't know. They have Malik Nabers though. Malik Nabers is a dog. He'll be an amazing wide receiver too. Malik Nabers is way better than Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, not way better, but he's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. He definitely is the best wide receiver. One of the best rookie wide receivers. Yeah, Malik Nabers, if he gets on a good team, he'd be unstoppable, but he's kind of being held back because he's on the Giants, just like Saquon Barkley has been. But the Jets, the Jets were predicted to be like right here, maybe even bottom of S tier this year, and I'm going to put them bottom of C tier. I know their record shows that they need to be with this team, or with these teams, but they have... Okay, so we're going to put this in Madden terms because I don't know any way to explain it. If you load up Madden, their roster is like one of the best in the game. If you sim with their roster... sorry. If you sim with their roster, after like 3 or 4 years, they'll go to the Super Bowl and win every now and then. Like, that's how good this roster is. And yes, it's Madden. It's a video game. But I'm just saying, their roster is amazing. And they had Aaron Rodgers. And for them to do bad should put them in D tier. But just looking forward, the Jets look like they could be a B tier team. And maybe not. Maybe they'll just be the Jets and just be horrible their whole organization career. But they warrant bottom of C tier just because their roster looks so good. And how they played... And looking forward into the future, I think the Jets have a good future ahead of them. The Eagles, after watching the Eagles play at the end of the year and watching them play in the playoffs, yes, this is kind of a stupid S tier because both Super Bowl teams are in the S tier, and then both teams that they didn't go to the AFC Championship, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the AFC Championship team is in S tier, but this team is really good. And as a Chiefs fan, I'm scared the Chiefs aren't going to three-peat because, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the Giants, Saquon Barkley. How I was saying at the beginning of the video that Josh Allen needs to win the MVP because he was the most valuable player to the team, I take that back because Saquon Barkley should. You can't put another running back in there and do that good. I don't care. Some people might say, oh, well, they have the best little line in the league, so you can put literally anybody in there and do that. No, you're not putting Isaiah Pacheco in the Eagles' shoes and doing what they did. Sorry, it's just not happening. And how the rest of the team played. Jalen Hurts is kind of a mid to above average quarterback. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts fan, but I do recognize he has pretty good stats. But Saquon Barkley, oh my gosh. He warrants his team's S tier and their defense, the best defense in the league. I think it's going to be a pretty fun Super Bowl to watch. I'm hyped for it. These two teams, best teams in the league. The Steelers, I'm going to put them high B tier. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't think the Packers... the Packers, like, throughout the whole year, they could be a bottom A tier, but they're going to be top of B tier because you can only go positive in the wins for so many years and do nothing in the playoffs before people get tired of seeing it and they're just like, oh, they're mid-team. Like, they are basically the definition of mid the last few years. They have some of the most Super Bowl wins ever, and so their franchise is one of the best ever technically. But right now, current day, the Steelers are one of the most mid teams because they win, don't win, win, don't win. Get to the playoffs, fall apart. That's the story of the Steelers season like every year. If I told you the Steelers went win, fall, win, fall, win, go to the playoffs, fall apart, you wouldn't be able to tell me what year it was. You'd just be like, oh, okay. You wouldn't be able to tell me what year it was. Like, if I told you the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, you'd be able to tell me it's like current day Chiefs because they're good. But the Steelers, they just always have been mid. The Seahawks, I'm going to put top of C. They look like they have a pretty good future ahead of them, but they started off pretty strong. They started off looking like one of the best teams in the league, and they really just fell off a cliff. But they have DK Metcalf. Geno Smith actually did kind of ball out, even though he's not the best quarterback in the league. But they have the potential to be good, is what I'm saying. That's all I got to say about them. Plus, I really like their green jerseys. They don't wear them often, but that's like one of my favorite jerseys in the league. And some of their jerseys actually look really good. But the 49ers. This team is going to go... I'm going to put them behind the Seahawks. This is the biggest letdown of the year to me, but this is one of the second biggest. Because they went from a Super Bowl team to just being straight dog ass. Out of nowhere. Like, their roster... When I say the Jets have the best roster in the league to be that bad, I meant the 49ers do. If you, just like I explained in Madden, if you go in Madden and sim with the 49ers at the beginning of this year, they will win the Super Bowl. Like, if you sim for 10 years, they'll probably win 3 or 4 times because their roster is so good. They have one of the best running backs in the league, which he got injured, which kind of sucks. Their quarterback is mid. He's okay. They have some good receivers, which they were injured. I understand that. Their defense is but, like, they just... I don't know. They have one of the best tight ends, probably the best tight end in the league. And for them to just not do that good, like that warrants a C tier to me. The Buccaneers, I'm going to put Buccaneers in A tier. So, this is also another one where I know it's not a good spot to put them, but personally, the Buccaneers look like the next few years they're going to be good. Baker Mayfield is a great quarterback. He just needs to get them interception numbers down, and he'll be an amazing quarterback. He is just what the Buccaneers need. And when the Buccaneers are healthy, they beat the Lions. One of the best teams in the league this year. They beat the Lions. Like, they look good. I'm ready to see them play next year. The Titans, I mean, they're the Titans. They're like, they couldn't pay Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry went to the Ravens and balled out this year. They're just a bad team. And the Commanders. It's going to be the last team. I'm going to put them up here. So what I want to say is, I understand throughout the whole year, this team is nothing better than like a B tier spot right there. But actually, I'm going to put them ahead of the Vikings. I think they're better than the Vikings. What I mean by this is, that second half of the year and that playoff run, Jaden Daniels played amazing for a rookie quarterback. Their team as a whole just played good, and it was fun to watch. They beat the Lions, who were Super Bowl favorites to win, and demolished them, really. He scored 40 points, or whatever it was. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. And to go against the Eagles, and the Eagles slam them and put 50 up on them, which kind of sucked. But they still put up 30, on one of the best defenses in the league. If Jaden Daniels plays like this throughout his whole career, he has a future ahead of him. He'll be cemented as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But, yeah. So, that's the tier list. Once again, this tier list it's not really like rating them on the record, on their stats. It's just kind of how I feel about them and how their future and kind of the last few years have looked, and kind of just an overall thing of current day, the team. Because the Chiefs, if it's not current day, they don't belong in S. You just got to understand that. The Lions would never belong in S if it's any other time but last year, this year, and their future. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the end of the video. It's probably be the last tier list I make for a little bit. Unless I just can't think of another video idea, then I'll throw one more out there. I don't know what it'll be about because I struggle to think of an idea now, but I had a lot of fun making this one. So, yeah, see ya.